Grant's back. Join the conversation every weekday afternoon beginning at 3 p.m. KSAC 890 AM Olivehurst, K284CM 104.7 FM Sacramento.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Grant's back, and here to win. It's the Grant Napear Show on Fox Sports Radio Sacramento. Now, Grant Napear.
Hello, Sacramento. I am back. This is freaking awesome. I am so excited. I have so many things that I want to say. But the first thing I want to do is I want to thank you. And I want to go back 5 years ago, and I want to reflect on what it's been like for me the last 5 years, how I got to September 2nd, 2025. But it's so unbelievable because I am sitting in the studios where I did my first ever radio show in Sacramento. KFBK used to have the Kings broadcast. Gary Gerald here from day one, and his backup was Dave Grosby. And Gros did a sports show on KFBK between 6 and 7. And I was the sports director at Channel 31 and had started doing the Kings as well on Channel 31. And they asked me if I would come in and fill in for Gros one night on his 1-hour sports show. And I did, right here in this same studio, in this same building. And I'll never forget walking out of this building. And I don't know if it was the late 90s, 90, 91. I don't really remember, but it was like 35 years ago. And I remember getting in my car to drive back to Channel 31 to get ready to do the sports on the news that night. And I was just energized. I was like, this is what I want to do. And the rest is history. But I want to thank you, and I want to tell you about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, on June 1st, I was getting ready to do my radio program. During that day, I had spoken with many people that work at the radio station after my tweet on the evening of May 31st. And we had decided that I would just go on and talk to you like I've always talked to you for 26 years, 4 hours every day. We went through a lot, right? Good, bad. We cried together. We laughed together. But I always considered us family. And I was prepared to do the show that day. It was the pandemic, so I was doing the show from home. And at 2:40, I got a phone call saying that the radio station was not allowed and not allowing me to go on the air. I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me. What do you mean I'm not allowed to go on the air? I've been going on the air every day. I don't even call in sick. I don't miss shows. I go on vacation, and that's it. I'm there every day. What do you mean I'm not going on the air? And I said, you need to call the owner of the company and say, I need to go on. This is ridiculous. And I got a call back at 2:45, 15 minutes before my show. And they said, nope, you're not going on. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe it. 26 years I've been talking to you. And now all of a sudden you're taking that away from me. So I stayed off social media after on June 2nd. Being told that I was being terminated. I didn't go on Twitter the whole summer, not Instagram, not Facebook. I kind of regrouped, figured out, well, what was I going to do with the next chapter of my life? And then we decided that we were going to move to Florida. And that decision was made at about the last day, the first few days of September. And during that time, I kept on getting people to say, you need to do a podcast. We miss you. You need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. And I decided to start a podcast. And I want to say a big thank you to a gentleman named Jeff Holden, who has been in this market for a long, long time. And I will never be able to thank Jeff enough for what he did for me to teach me the podcast business and how to edit, how to produce, how to send it out on the various platforms. And I met with Jeff and another gentleman named Oscar, who was just so amazing to me. I'll never, ever, ever be able to thank them enough. And I'll never forget this. I recorded my first podcast in my empty home with the exception of one bedroom where we had left a bed because the seller or the buyer of our house requested it. Nothing else in my house. And I'm recording the podcast, and I finished my first podcast. I put my equipment in the box. I looked around at my house. I walked out to my car. My wife had already left a couple days prior to get everything set up in Florida. And it's just me and the dog, Bula. And I got in the car, and I backed out of my driveway, and I got on I-80. And right away, I started thinking about my drive here in the biggest heat wave of July 1987. And I'll never forget coming over Auburn and descending into the valley. Had no idea where I was going. I didn't know anybody. I knew the general manager at Channel 31 and one or two other people, including the sports director, Rich Gould, who I had met. And that's it. I didn't know anybody. And there's something about being on the open road with just solitude, quiet. And the first hour or two of that drive was really difficult because I kept on thinking about that drive and not knowing anyone in 1987. And I thought about all of the things that happened to me here for over half my life, 33 years. I lived in this great community. My greatest gift were my two boys, Trent and Chase, all the people I met, all of the things I accomplished. The greatest day in my life, other than the birth of my sons, was the day that I was told that I would be the new TV announcer for the Sacramento Kings, that I began in 1988. I accomplished all of my dreams in Sacramento. I did the NFL for 5 years. I did the National Hockey League. I did the NBA for 32 years. I did national radio at ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut 3 weekends out of the month. I filled in for Jim Rome for a long time. Like, I'm done. You understand? Like, I accomplished so many of my dreams that, like, I'm good. I'm good. And as I'm driving out of Sacramento and I'm going up through Auburn and I continued up my ascent to Donner Summit, I didn't think I'd come back here other than to see my son Trent and my friends, but I never thought I'd work back here again. I figured, you know what? My podcast will be good enough. And I had some great guests. Charles Barkley was my first guest on my podcast, and I loved doing it. I just loved it. I mean, I had so many great interviews. And then, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, a guy named Ryan in Sacktown reached out to me at a live event that Jim Rome was doing. And again, I'll talk about that more. And we decided to start live shows around the Kings games, and it evolved into pregame, halftime, postgame, which, by the way, 82 postgame shows will still be on my podcast if you don't like that. And the messages I kept on receiving over and over and over again were like, we miss you. We want you to come back. I tried an app called Listen App to take phone calls, but it didn't really do much for me. There's nothing like the power of live radio. Nothing. 26 years, 4 hours every day, we talked, right? And I'm thinking about all of these things on my drive. But I never thought I'd be back here broadcasting on radio in Sacramento ever again. I thought about keeping the Kings, right? I'll never forget getting the call in the lobby of the Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans, MLK Day. I'm getting ready to get on the team bus for a matinee game against New Orleans. And George Maloof calls me. And he said, Grant, I want you to hear it from me. We have reached a deal with a group in Seattle, and we are selling the team. And I want to thank you for everything you've done for the franchise. And we were all numb. I'll never forget walking on the bus that day. I couldn't believe it. And the word had kind of surfaced that this was not a rumor anymore and that the Kings were being sold to a group in Seattle. And I remember getting on the airplane after the game, and I remember it was still daylight when we took off. And I was sitting on the left side of the plane as we ascended. And I looked out the window, and I saw the Mississippi River and the city of New Orleans, and I said to myself, wow, I wonder if I'm ever going to have this view again. This is it. And I remember getting home And I remember then driving to work the next day. I'll never forget that drive to work. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I walked into the studio, and I'm sitting in front of the microphone, and the bumper music begins, and I just start talking. And I said exactly what has been replayed thousands of times now. Well, let me tell you something right now. This thing is not over. We are going to roll our sleeves up to our freaking necks, and we're keeping the team here. You got it? This thing is not over. There is no way this is over. All right? So don't give up. Don't you ever give up. And that started the Playing to Win with Carmichael Dave and all the great things he did. Of course, ESPN had done a 30 for 30 that never was aired, but a lot of people did see the screening at the Crest Theater or when it was put out online. And Jason Hare, the director of that 30 for 30 down in the Valley, who I've become friends with, he also directed The Last Dance and the great 10-part documentary on the Bulls and Michael Jordan. But he told me, he said, you know, I didn't know anything about Sacramento. I didn't know anything about your franchise. Yeah, I'm a sports fan, but I'm not watching the Sacramento Kings. But he said, you know, when I saw you break down on the air, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. This team means that much? Where the announcers are on TV crying? And he said that was really instrumental, along with a phone conversation that he had with Dave, to do a documentary and a 30 for 30 down in the Valley. And I thought about that period of time and how difficult that was for everybody in this community. But you know what? We got through it, and we all saved the team. And I was thinking about all of the bad years that we went through, right? If you take away 95, 96, Gary St. Jean, Mitch Richmond, right? That team, Olden Polynice. And I can go on and on. The dramatic 4-game series with Seattle after they won Game 2 in Seattle. I'll never forget standing on the floor at Arco Arena. To this day, that's the loudest, the most amazing experience that I've ever had in that arena in Sacramento. And then all of a sudden, wow, what happened? And then there's the lockout, 98, 99. And you're thinking, geez, Kings had made a trade, Mitch Richmond for Webb, Vlade Divac, 6-year free agent deal, drafted Jason Williams, Peja was coming over. And overnight, the Kings became the darlings of the NBA. And we lived through the heartache of Robert Horry's shot, which I was on the call by myself on radio at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. That's, to this day, the biggest heartache I've ever had calling a game. But we got through it, right? We got through it. And we celebrated the opening of a beautiful arena in downtown Sacramento. The team was staying, but the team still stunk. But it didn't matter because we had kept the Kings. So I'm thinking about all of these things as I'm driving. All of these things are going through my mind as I'm leaving through Tahoe and through Reno and across Nevada and that drive. And that's all I thought about. But I also said, wow, it's over. It's over. I've got my podcast and I'm connected with the Sacramento fans, but I'm not going to be on the air in Sacramento again. And I will tell you that 9 months ago, I did not envision myself sitting in this chair right now in downtown Sacramento talking to you. But I want to thank you because it's because of you that I am here. There's no other reason. It's because of the bond that we've had. Let me tell you something. I've always said this, and I'm going to say it again. This is not my show. I know it's called the Grant Napear Show, but this is not my show. It's never been my show. It has been our show. You and me. It's never been about me. It's been about us. Okay? Without you, I'm nobody. Without your support, I don't want to be here. Without the give and take, right? And we've had a lot of give and take. The yelling back and forth, the passionate sports calls. Great guest. But I've always included you in this show, and I will always include you in my show. I'll never forget at the other station, I couldn't believe this. They called me into a meeting with some guy that he couldn't tell you the difference between a basketball and a football. I swear, I'm not exaggerating. He was a music guy. And he calls me in as they had elevated him to some position in the company. And I was respectful. You know, I'm not going to be a jerk. And he's telling me that I take too many phone calls. And I said to him, I said, I'm not going to waste your time or my time. I respect the fact that you're in this position where you need to take me. But I'm going to make this very clear to you. The day that I cannot take phone calls and talk to my fans is the day that I don't do radio anymore. Period. 2020, that drive. I left Sacramento, but you never left me. And you're the reason why I am sitting here today. And when I reached an agreement with Fox Sports Sacramento, and I announced it live on my YouTube channel, and this is not an exaggeration, I could not put my phone down for 72 hours. I believe in returning messages, whether it's with an emoji or what have you. I spent sleeping 4 hours a night, and I was on my phone all the other hours. And I am not exaggerating. I was so blown away at the response. And it just showed me that I had made the right decision. That we are in this together, and that your support that has been unwavering about how awful it was that I lost my job over freaking all lives matter, every single one. It's still hard to believe. I was canceled, but I am back. And what I am trying to say is summed up in a message that I received today from somebody that I worked with in Sacramento 30 years ago. And he is great at what he does. And he sent me this message today that I want to read. Today is the start of something great for this region. Something this area has missed since 2020. You were robbed of your career, and you were taken from us listeners and viewers. I don't know if I was robbed. I don't know about anything other than loyalty. I'm all about loyalty. You have been so loyal to me. And I promise you, right here, at 3:17 Pacific time, on September 2nd, 2025, that I will remain loyal to you. It is the least that I can do for you, and the loyalty and the love that you have shown me over the last 5 years. It has been humbling. And a couple of weeks ago, when I announced that I was coming back on Fox Sports Sacramento, I was overwhelmed. I was absolutely blown away. I actually had a moment after being up for most of the night returning messages. I actually was in my bed and I actually teared up because I kept on looking at all of these messages and I could not believe it. So I start off this show after 5 years thanking you. Our show. Grant Napear Show by title, because I have to have a show called something. But this show is your show. Now, there's something else I want to say. This is a sports show. This is not a political show. If you want politics, go on down the road somewhere. Our country is divided enough. I am not going to have a show where we divide people here. We are a family here. And we'll go through good times. We'll go through bad times. I'll love you sometimes. I won't love you sometimes. Same thing. That's okay. That's what we do. It's sports talk. We're sports fans. This is not a political show. I'm not going there. That's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. I've granted all these interviews. I appreciate all the support from so many members of the media. I am just indebted and grateful for them. But it is time to move on. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It makes no difference to me who you voted for. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what religion you are. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is you're either a good person or you're not. And in this case, where I don't know everybody that's listening to me, what I care about is that you listen to me and you understand that this is a sports show. And we're going to cover the NFL, and we're going to cover the NBA, and we're going to go heavy duty on the Kings. You know that, because that's how I roll. And I'm going to take phone calls, and I'm going to have a lot of guests, and we are going to get after it. But we're family. We're not dividing. The country can stay divided as much as they want, and you can have your own political beliefs. I don't care. It does not matter to me. I do not care. This is a sports show. And I'm keeping it sports unless there is an event that intersects a sport that is unavoidable that I have to talk about because it is part of the current events. But as I wrap up this opening segment, because I've got a very special guest that's coming up in a couple of moments, this is your show. And I am forever grateful for your loyalty, your support, and quite frankly, your love. It has been overwhelming, as I said, and humbling. And that drive that I had from Sacramento to South Florida was great therapy for me, because I relived 33 years on that drive with just me and Bula in the front seat, just driving through America. I stopped and visited Scott Pollard for 2 days in Indianapolis. I visited my brother and his wife in Crossville, Tennessee, and then made it to Florida. And it was great therapy for me because I was going through a hard time. But the thing that got me through all of this was you. I will never forget it. I will never forget it. And I want to let you know that I'm going to take a lot of phone calls today. I'll pass out the numbers at 916-779-0929. That's 916-779-0929. And I also have a very special guest that's coming up in a couple of minutes. Hey, NFL fans, week 1 is your shot to play free and stack $1 million cash bag with DraftKings Pick 6, an official partner of the NFL. Here's how. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. DraftKings, easiest way to play fantasy. Enter for free and pick more or less on player stats for week 1. So, talk about Saquon Barkley. Talk about Jalen Hurts, right? They put a total. You're going more or less. It's that simple. Share your link with friends to add more cash to the bag and get bonus shots to win. Hit all 6 picks, and you'll be splitting a bag that's already at $1 million or more. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use code KSAC. Opt in for free and start stacking entries for NFL Week 1. Zero cost, huge upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. Must claim token for free entry in Bag Builder contest. Only perfect entries earn share of cash prize. Tokens are single use and expire September 8th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. When we come back, I am so excited to welcome my first guest to the Grant Napear Show. This is Fox Sports Sacramento.